Circling back to your recruiting process and even communicating with returning players, what has that process been like since you haven't been able to see everyone in person in the last 7 or 8 weeks, whether it's incoming players, potential recruits you're hoping to sign, returning players, or even the alumni that you're hoping to still keep around and communicate with and let them know what's going on with Stevens soccer?
Yeah, we've done a lot of things. Actually, the COVID-19 era of the digital world has kind of expanded a lot of things. We obviously try to do as much as we can in terms of keeping in contact via text message. We utilize GroupMe and phone calls, obviously, to stay in touch with our girls and just keep up with everybody. This time is such a weird time in our history, and just making sure everybody's doing okay, mentally, physically, emotionally, all those kinds of things, and just keeping up with the girls and making sure everything was going well was a priority. Now that classes are over at Stevens and final grades are posting, we're kind of following up again on the eligibility thing, but also kind of like, all right, hey, it's summer. Don't turn off, the drive for next year just because, Stevens is done for you right now. Following up on those in terms of individual meetings. Every Thursday, we've been holding team Zoom calls just to kind of follow up and check in with everybody. It's nice to get all the girls back around each other and just kind of let it be an open flowing conversation. I tend to try to do a little bit of an update with things, throughout the week, that we've come up with in terms of, new gear, new announcements, as many up-to-date things as I can give out. And then we just kind of turn it into, just a free-flowing conversation. Again, that family vibe where we can all just kind of talk about whatever's going on. And, that's been very helpful, I think, for me. I think it's been good for the girls, and it's also been good, so that, everybody's keeping up with each other. So that was kind of the big thing for the current players. Another project that I took on, just because, again, I had the time, we set up a brand new alumni Facebook group. It's been a pleasure getting to know a lot of the players, and it goes back as far as, 2012 season. And I've been getting to know them a lot more, and really kind of picking their brain, like, hey, ladies, like, what can we do to get you guys more involved? And it's not even so much in like a donor sense, but like hey, just come support us. This was something that you all loved, and you really miss your time here because the amount of pictures, and they're like, oh man, like I missed that. And, everything like that that's been going on has been wonderful. And we're hoping to keep expanding the group, between myself and then Allie Wilson, who's an alumni for us, and one of my assistant coaches being in there. We've added in as a handful of players. I think we're up around 40 or 45 members now. Even through Xander Kennedy in there, who's the original coach when the inception of the program came back. So him being able to reconnect with a lot of the players has been amazing too. And just seeing all the pictures and just like knowing that, a lot of these girls never played with who the current players are. But oh my, how the culture and the amount of fun and the love for the game existed then to now. And then you throw in that winning culture that we're starting to try to develop at Stevens and really pushing into the program. I think it's only going to make it more fun. And all of those women, especially the ones around the area, are so ready to support us and come back. I've already been talking with them like, hey, what sort of events would you want to see? We've been talking alumni game. We've been talking alumni appreciation nights, those kinds of things to try to get, like I said, more involvement from the community and keep, the sisters at Stevens, with the graduating Susies and the current Susies as a whole community. So that way, when my girls now graduate, they go into this group or they go into a connection network where it's just like, all right, like, hey, I'm looking for this kind of job, and maybe they get to go work for a former player. So that's been kind of a cool project for me. And like I said, getting to know all these awesome women in that group has been, really a blessing. And just kind of seeing where the program came from and getting a little more in depth on that one, and where they want to see it go. And they've been impressed with the direction we're going, but I want to use them to say, hey, what did you guys have? What do we need? Where do you want to see it? And I think getting them more involved in that process is going to make things better in the long haul when you talk about alumni connections and relations.
What also helps having the original captain back on campus as a Stevens employee from 1994. Have you had any interaction with her? And I know she talks fondly about her days playing soccer for Stevens and starting the program back then. Has she helped at all or put you in contact with players from that generation to help bring them into the fold?
Yeah, I've been working on that. Shashan Dial, the diversity and culture director at Stevens. I think I got the title right, or it's close to that. I spoke with her actually right before the closure of campus. I think it was about 3 or 4 days in a row where I was having lunch with her every single day and just kind of talking to her and getting to know her, utilizing any connection we can to try to get as many people into the fold as we can is going to be crucial for this. We're not a program that really has existed in continuity for, very many years. I'm looking forward to, in a couple of years anyway, and we're coming up on, a decade of Stevens soccer. And it's funny to think about it in that regard, that it's only that old. But as we're building that network and utilizing all the connections we can to reach back to the 90s, the early 2010s and so forth, it's been really insightful to have a lot of players because the majority of the girls in that group, I think I invited all of the girls that I had that were that I coached, and I reached out to the oldest girls, Caitlin Gardner and Jerica Curry, and I was like, hey, who'd you play with? To start inviting them. And then I was like, oh, I know Xander. Let's invite Xander because I'm sure he's connected with everybody still. And I think he's probably invited, 9, 10 girls too. So it's been the growth, and you have to, as a younger head coach, going into my 4th fall, into a younger program, you have to rely on those that were older and utilize all the experience and the knowledge that you can from those girls. So I anticipate some more growth in that as we continue to graduate our players and, get some involvement from that one. And then, utilizing, the 90s group and as far back as we can. Like I said, it's a family for a reason, and I don't want them to feel like when they graduate, they're leaving.
You referenced Allie Wilson earlier. She's going to enter her 2nd season as your top assistant in 2020. Most of the coaching staff is back, a lot of familiar faces, but you've also added some new people. Talk about your returners and those new people and some of their strengths and what you think they bring to the program.
Yeah. Obviously myself, 4th season coming up, trying to push and learn. I'm a student of the game every single year, and I spend a lot of times, self-reflection on decisions that I've made, looking at strategy, utilizing what other coaches have done in terms of what's made them successful, watching tons of film and just deciding, okay, could I have made a different decision here or there, was kind of a big deal for me. So I think that, throughout my years, there's been a lot of growth for me in terms of, evolution of what I've been doing. But also I like to bring in people that are near me that can offer things that maybe I can't. And, I'm a big enough person that I can, admit I don't have all the answers and I don't have all the knowledge. And so by putting good people around me, I think it's made us a more successful program. Other returners, you mentioned Allie Wilson coming into her 2nd season. 6 years straight now with the Stevens Star soccer program as a player and now as a coach. Her growth last year as a coach in terms of understanding things, organization, running practices is something to be admired. Coaching wasn't necessarily going to be her track, and then when it turned into a situation where she could still be involved in it, she jumped at the opportunity. And I anticipate some more growth and some more leadership out of her. Another name that we're keeping around and sticking around, and he's the senior most, I guess, in terms of it. And I don't mean that as a shot at you, Don, in terms of your age, but Don Schmidt coming back as an assistant coach for us. And, he's been with the program. I think this will be his 6th year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a situation where having him around, the girl, all the older girls still call him dad. And, and so when he's around, it's perfect. He was the interim head coach between, the previous head coach and myself. So he's done a lot for the program throughout his years here. And he's got a lot of knowledge, both, for field and goalkeepers. He's been our goalkeeper trainer for a number of years, and I'm hoping to get him a little bit of reprieve on that one, with a couple of the new, assistant coaches that we're bringing in. The new faces, one vaguely new, he's been involved in off-season training for us, and helping us out, and then was brought on officially this spring. Charlie Thompson, who's a head coach and an assistant coach at Sporting Columbia Soccer Club here in town. His insight and just kind of the knowledge in terms of player development and then scouting has been invaluable to this program. He's brought kind of another dimension of analytics to the program and is pushing things in the right direction. And, having someone else like him who's kind of a soccer mind, he'll get online and play around with starting lineups and formations and all those kinds of things. And having him around and another person kind of like me in that regard, who's always willing to be like, if we put this person here, what does that do? Has been a breath of fresh air. He's very, very smart, very, very technical, demands the high work rate, demands the high accountability. And he's been very good. And I think our players respond very well to him because, it allows me to kind of step back and watch games holistically now and work with players more individually on what I want to see from them, which is a blessing as a coach because he can run a full session and has the experience of running full sessions, by himself. So a lot of times I can allow him to kind of run things and I can kind of break down things with individual groups or players, which is helpful. And vice versa. I was a defender, so allowing him to kind of take my forwards and midfielders and be like, hey, go work with them in terms of expectations. Little technical changes has been great too. And he's going to be super, super effective in terms of, I think, that kind of the turnaround we're going to have and the growth that we're going to show this next year, which is wonderful. And then another gentleman that we're still kind of working out stuff with, kinks with is his name is Paul Keller. He's a goalkeeper coach from over in the Boonville area. He plans on coming and working with our goalkeepers a couple of times a week. Played professionally over in England and in the United States, was very successful. So his knowledge base is immense. And, having someone who can come and really just kind of work our goalkeepers out like crazy. And when I say like crazy, both of the goalkeepers know him. Coming in from our camp, he came and worked our camp. And I have never seen goalkeepers work as hard as he had them working. So it's one of those things where having someone like that to elevate our goalkeepers game and again, just more knowledge-based and training-based is perfect for us. So it'll be the biggest staff we've had for a while. I'm hoping to maintain everybody and keep them around because obviously having that many is great for the program in terms of, player development. It allows us, a little more free time as coaches. I don't have to worry about running a training session if I've got the other coaches that can, and that gives me more time to scout opponents and players. So it'll be very, very effective having that many coaches around for our players, and I think that we're going to get a lot more out of our program, because of that.